Chapter 523, Cooperation. By the time he left 47 Blackhorn Street, Klein had figured out Went's general situation. He had disguised himself as a police officer and learned from Went's neighbors. Saimim Island, the island at the farthest end of the Rorsted archipelago. From Bayam, it'll take 4 to 5 hours to get there by liner, and there are only 2 trips a day, at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., respectively. Went's parents are long dead and he has no relatives. The only person involved is a girl he just can't forget, Rain. She's the perfect target for my first performance of acting as someone else. But just thinking about how I need to confess on Went's behalf, it feels so awkward. If the girl agrees, damn, how am I supposed to wrap things up? Klein thought with a troubled expression. He tried to recall the novels he had read and the movies and TV dramas he had watched, hoping for the most perfect solution. Soon, he had a general idea of what to do, stabilizing his mood in the process. His thoughts began to drift towards the matter regarding Steel Mavetti. I hope Miss Magician will get a radio transceiver as soon as possible. Klein sighed silently and got onto a rental carriage. Backland, Sherwood Borough. Fours opened a letter Zio had brought back. It came from the science fiction novelist, Avil, who was pleased to share with Ma'am Wall the future development and applications of radio technology. Fours directly skipped over the beginning and middle content, her eyes sweeping over to the end. He introduced 3 types, with detailed addresses and approximate prices. The most expensive is just £12. Fours nodded slightly, feeling that this wasn't a very important business transaction. She suddenly felt her self-esteem was a little inflated. Perhaps because she had seen so many hundreds and thousands of pounds transactions in the Tarot Club, she no longer paid much notice to anything in the range of £10. Mr. World has the resources and finances. In the future, I might need to buy items from him or sell things I don't need. Yes, I'll just add postage, my transportation costs, and the price of the materials expended for the ritual to the original price. Fours made up her mind quickly, and she subconsciously looked out of the window. Backland was still gloomy and dark, with a light drizzle pattering down. However, the fog wasn't as thick as it was before. I wonder when I'll receive the Spirit Eater's stomach pouch from the sun. Fours couldn't wait to advance. In the Berg household, in the City of Silver. Having already prepared the Spirit Eater's stomach pouch and the materials Mr. Hanged Man wished to acquire, Derek was in no hurry to sacrifice them to Mr. Fool. He planned to wait a little longer, until the chief was leading an expedition team or was presiding over a particular sacrificial ritual, before making an attempt. This is the safest and most reliable way. Yes, be careful, be cautious. Derek reminded himself before flipping open the Giant King's Court, Book of Blackrock, hand-copied edition. Recently, he had been reading this ancient tome. From it, he was able to understand some of the faces of the Giant King's court from ancient times. According to the ancient tome, it was a court of God. Time seemed to have frozen there, as though it was suspended in eternal dusk. All the buildings were extremely grand and magnificent, even reaching into the clouds. Humans who walked inside were exceptionally small, and they revered the owner of this scene from the bottom of their hearts. Backland, Hilston Borough, Waymandy's house. After listening to an explanation, Emlyn White combed his hair with his hand and intentionally asked, Lord Baron, I forgot where I heard it from, but there was a very famous city named the City of Silver during the Second Epoch or in the early half of the Third Epoch. Waymandy was a vampire baron whose age exceeded 200 years. He didn't look old, and he instead looked like a mature gentleman in his early 30s. His black hair was neatly combed back, and he was wearing a dark red cotton shirt with a brown pipe in his hand. As he enjoyed the warmth of the fireplace, he said thoughtfully, No, at least in my memory, there's no City of Silver before the Cataclysm. Before Emlyn could even revel in his joy, Waymandy went on to say to himself, But there was a Kingdom of Silver, which was originally ruled by the Giant King's court and later came under its jurisdiction. Kingdom of Silver. Emlyn White thought for a while and said, Lord Baron, is there anything more specific? Waymandy looked up at him, smiled, and said reminiscently, The Kingdom of Silver had a rather special position in the Giant King's court. They didn't directly believe in the Giant King, Amir, and instead, they believed in the Giant King's Court's queen, Umbella. City of Generosity, Bayam Dock Area. Acid Lemon Street, Wind of Azure Inn. Klein stood at the corner of the street, undid the topaz pendant on his left wrist, and divined to ensure that there was no danger ahead. With that in mind, he strolled back to the inn, went up to the third floor, and opened the door of the luxurious suite. He was slightly surprised to find Blazing Danitz already back, slumped in his reclining chair, drinking. After a moment of consideration, Klein calmly asked, "What time is it?" "Isn't there a clock?" Danitz muttered. He looked at the wall opposite him and read out the time. 3:40 p.m. Before he finished his sentence, Danitz suddenly came to his senses, sat up straight, and laughed dryly. "I've already gone to the places I can get information from and ask the people I can ask. There's no need to stay outside any longer. It will increase the risk of exposure and affect your hunting plan." Klein found a chair and sat down, and he expressionlessly said, "Tell me what happened." "What problems could there be? Although I'm mainly an adventurer who hunts treasure, I'm also a qualified part-time pirate." Danitz felt that his abilities had been insulted. After being swept by Jayaman Sparrow with a cold glance, he smiled and gave a brief overview of the places he went, the people he met, and the news he had heard from the morning and afternoon. Hearing Danitz sigh that a captain of a ghost ship named Alger knew about Banzi Harbor, Klein suddenly wanted to frown. "With Mr. Hanged Man's relationship with the Church of Storms, even before I controlled the world and actively mentioned it, he didn't know about the anomaly at Banzi Harbor, so how could this Alger have known? Is he some powerhouse of hire standing in the Church of Storms who's disguised as a pirate, or someone who has some sort of relationship with the heretics in Banzi Harbor? Mr. Hanged Man has been active in the surrounding seas, so there's a possibility that it's him." Klein's heart stirred as he recalled the characteristics of the Hanged Man. Above the gray fog, although he couldn't clearly see the other members' appearances, it was still obvious as to whether they were men or women and what their hair color was. Klein raised his hand to stop Danitz from speaking. He said in a low voice, "Very messy hair, dark blue in color." "You know him, that guy isn't simple," Danitz sighed. "As expected. I really didn't expect to meet him so easily." Klein didn't respond. Instead, he leaned forward and said, "Continue." Without thinking too much into it, Danitz gave a general description of what happened afterward and explained himself. "As you know, no one can be sure when they'll get anything when trying to get information. After finding everyone who could be found, the only thing one can do is wait patiently. This will definitely take a while." "There's another solution that doesn't require waiting," Klein deliberately said in a flat tone. "What solution?" Danitz asked in surprise. Klein nudged his gold-rimmed glasses, the corners of his mouth curving into a smile. "Use bait." "Bait?" Danitz looked at him, momentarily puzzled. In just a second, he had come to his senses. Only he could be the bait. As for fishing for the enemy, no one cared if the bait was actually swallowed or not. One only cared if the prey could be pulled out. Simply put, bait was a highly risky species. That's not a great solution. Yes, that's what my intuition tells me. I should be able to gain something from the Red Theater. I'll go over there to take a look." Danitz took his coat as he eagerly rushed out the door. Klein originally wanted to tail far behind Blazing and see if he could find any clues, but suddenly he heard layers of illusory prayers. It came from a man. Klein paused thoughtfully and turned into the washroom. 10 seconds later, he appeared above the gray fog. He saw the crimson star that represented the Hanged Man constantly burgeoning and shrinking. As expected, Klein sat down, leaned back in his chair, and emanated his spirituality. The voice of the Hanged Man became clearer. "Honorable Mr. Fool, I'm currently investigating a key related to Vice Admiral Iceberg. I met Blazing Danitz at a casino and learned that he was a witness at the anomaly in Banzi Harbor. I also learned that he plans to join forces with a powerful figure to deal with Steel Mavetti. I suspect that Blazing Danitz is working with your Blessed, so I've prayed to you. If this is indeed the case, and if he wishes to receive a certain degree of assistance, I can be of some help." Mr. Hanged Man has indeed guessed Jayaman Sparrow's identity. He likely only had his suspicions, but he successfully obtained verification by inquiring about Banzi Harbor from Danitz. This is also good. With the help of an experienced local, the plan to hunt Steel Mavetti would be much smoother. Unless it directly affects the fool, there's no meaning for the hanged man to entrap a blessed. Judging from his expression and attitude, he doesn't have any suspicions towards the fool yet. I didn't leave any loopholes. Klein's thoughts raced, and he quickly made his decision. After making a divination, he conjured the world and covered the dummy with fog. He placed him in a praying stance and answered solemnly, "Honorable Mr. Fool, I am in need of some assistance." After finishing this scene, Klein threw the voice along with the scene into the Crimson Star, symbolizing the hanged man.